Hello, Degens. Welcome to Degenerate Takes. I am the Brofect one, AJ. With me, as always, is my co-host, Noah. Noah, what a weekend we had, dude. Not just a solid gambling weekend that you and I had, but also just a good, interesting football weekend. I'm not going to go with a good football weekend because let me say, there were some ugly games both on college and the pro side that we saw. Can't say it was the best football I've seen all week, all year, but I'm really happy with a lot of the results. Starting with college, I mean, bro, as you can see on my wall, the shirt finally hit. Don't get me wrong.
The shirt is back.
The shirt's back, bro. It's simple as that. I just had to wait. You see, I was ignoring the Pac-12 for so long when in reality I knew there was a winner deep in there. And so I just had to go and find it, and now all is right with the world. The shirt is back on track. We're 3-4, about to go 500 this week. Stay tuned for degenerate bets later on in the week to figure out what the shirt is.
AJ, I got an interesting nugget other than the one outlier where you didn't take an underdog money line and you took Texas to cover.
True.
All of your shirts where you've taken an underdog money line, they have all covered the spread.
That's interesting. So that might be something that we need. That's a trend we may need to look at going into this week. My dogs are really good at covering the spread.
So if you don't love the money line, maybe take the spread on AJ's shirts. They've been pretty solid.
True. So don't fade me completely. Just kind of half fade me.
But you're 3-3.
Oh,
units wise, you're up. Shirt's got to be up.
Oh, shirt's up big on units wise.
Got to be up 3-3. Got to be up about 2 units, I would imagine, with those money line underdog picks. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all the shirt knows how to do is make money and win. And we're going to continue that trend on this week. But Noah, besides the shirt hitting in honestly the most heart attack way it possibly could have hit with that last minute pick, like holy shit,
yeah.
I had a heart attack mid pick. But besides that, dude, I want to talk about one of the more interesting games of the week. I don't even know how to describe what I saw. It's a team that I love.
Of the season, maybe, if we're talking about the same game.
We are definitely talking about the same game. We're definitely talking about it. We're talking about Penn State and Illinois. Penn State, a team I have been hot on all season. Bro, explain this to me, okay? Usually in sports betting and everything, I know this isn't degenerate bets, but usually in betting in general, a game goes into overtime, and you love that as an over better because that means there have been points on the board. There's a lot more time left in everything. Noah, this game didn't only go to 1 overtime. It didn't only go to double overtime. It went to 9 effing overtimes, bro. What? How, and bro, the under hit.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Like, I'm just flabbergasted that this was even a game. I'm flabbergasted that this is what it came down to. And I can't believe we're sitting here talking about a game that went 9 overtimes and the under hit.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, 20-18 final score. I mean, overtime, especially college overtime, you're expecting points and lots of points. I think it was Texas A&M and LSU last year that went to like 7 overtimes. That game was at like 100. I was at like 140 points. That game was like 70 something to 70 something. This one total of 38 points and 9 overtimes.
Just stupid.
I mean,
just stupid.
Penn State's got problems on offense.
Yeah.
They got big problems on offense. Their defense is one of the best in the country, but man, they got offensive issues with scoring the ball and moving the ball. So
yeah, they just really couldn't get it started. And it's not the Penn State team that I've grown to love as a team that can cover. It was just a disappointing game overall for Penn State. But if I'm Illinois, I'm very happy with my performance. Maybe not on the offensive side of the ball because neither team's offensively should be happy with what they did. Excuse me.
Oh, this is a major win for an Illinois program. That's one of the bottom feeders of the Big Ten.
Yeah,
knocking off Penn State. I mean, reality of it is it doesn't really affect too much with the Big Ten standings. Penn State still sitting in that 4 slot in the Big Ten East. I mean, they got Ohio State coming up this next week. I think that's going to be a rough game for Penn State. Ohio State, a team who was kind of struggling the first 3 weeks to get their footing. But they have really found their stride now, and they're looking like a top 5, like a playoff team. They look like the best team in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, easily.
I expect this to be a rough one next week for Penn State.
It will be a rough one for next week, and we'll cover this more on Degenerate Bets because this is definitely one of the games that I want to talk about because I think this Penn State defense is going to cause some issues for this Ohio State offense because it's not like
they're good.
They're
legit.
A good team, but they did start off struggling, and I don't know if that's just because the offense is young and this Penn State defense maybe can rattle.
But they're not that young. I mean,
are they not?
Their quarterback Clifford, he's experienced.
Oh.
Well, so they got an experienced quarterback. They got, their number one receiver's been there 2 or 3 years. So they're,
okay.
I don't think they're a super young team. I just don't think they have, I don't know if it's play calling or just the firepower, but they just, clearly they're not clicking on offense. Defense is causing a lot of problems for a lot of teams. I mean, obviously.
As Ohio State, that's what Ohio State does. That defense is always solid.
Penn State.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about Penn State. My bad.
Yes.
Defense causes issues.
I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know. That was definitely the most interesting game of our college football week.
Oh, yeah.
Most disappointing game for you and I. Arizona finding a way to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. And I came into this game fully expecting to just, lose by at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. Had no hopes, no aspirations. Arizona still found a way to disappoint me by, I thought we were going to win.
Yeah.
Dude. Up 13-0 at half, 16-7 at the end of the third quarter. It really looked like our defense was clamping down. Washington's got a bad offense, but we were playing well, and we looked like we were going to win. And like I said, just snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, only U of A knows how to do.
God, dude, it was awful. It was awful. And so, imagine this, bro. So I'm at work, right? And I see this game going on, and I'm like, well, shit. U of A, I told myself going into Saturday, I'm not going to do any live betting. That's where I lose my money. I'm going to stay disciplined. And I was already up a couple of units, so that was probably my bad, getting a little cocky there. So I was watching the game, and I see U of A is up, and they're still at plus money on the money line. And I'm like, ooh, because the spread, I didn't like the price on the spread. So I was like, all right, I'll throw a unit on the money line. Let's see what happens. And then they were up by 2 touchdowns or something like that, 2 possessions at least. And they were still at plus money on the money line. And this was towards the end of the second quarter. And I'm like, fuck it, let's go. I'll throw another unit on that. And then U of A doing dude, we have our homecoming coming up against Cal. And, I want to do the Homer shirt and everything. I really want to do it, but
it'll be,
fuck, dude.
I'll say it'll be the last game this season that I think we have a shot at winning.
Because this Cal team is terrible. They are.
Yeah, but we're worse.
Oh, way worse. But that time against Washington State, it was Washington State, right?
Washington.
No, Washington. No. Sorry. Yeah, Washington. That time against Washington, though, when we did move the ball, we did score, we did get some stops. It made me feel confident that we're at least moving a little bit in the right direction. And that might be, as a U of A fan, trying to look at this with a positive outspin. However, I really think that we maybe just move it trending a little bit in the right direction, at least playing okay football every once in a while.
Yeah, I think we are. My biggest problem is we only seem to play 3 quarters, 2.5, 3 quarters. Playing Oregon, we were only down 5 points going into the fourth quarter, ended up losing by 20 something, but because I think they outscored us 21-0 or something close to that, but we were only down 5 going into the fourth quarter of that one. A lot of our other games this year, we just don't show up in the fourth quarter. I don't know what it is. I think it's the same thing in both college and NFL. Before you can get over that hump and get better as a team, you see it with a lot of these teams with, new coaches, new systems. You have to figure out how to win first. The Lions are a prime example of that.
Yeah.
They've been so close in almost all of their games. They were right there in it with the Rams
so
too.
Close with the Rams.
But I think with these new coaches, new systems, sometimes you got to figure out how to win before you can be good.
Like
you can be in games.
Got to figure out how to step on the throat. I think that's the big thing. You got to figure out how to step on that throat.
Yeah, you can be in games and be competitive, but it's it's the just figuring out how to close it out and to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to it a little bit later in the episode, but like Brady and the Bucks just absolutely stomping on my Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. We'll get to that game in a little bit because I've got some interesting thoughts on that I think you'll enjoy as a Packers fan. We'll get to that in a bit, though. There's just one other college team I want to talk about really quick because I think they've secured officially their spot as number one for the rest of the season. I'm talking about Georgia, bro. This Georgia team literally looks unstoppable. They're going to win the rest of their games this season. Looking at the board right now, they have Florida next week, Missouri the week after, Tennessee, Charleston South, I believe, and then Georgia Tech. I think Tennessee is going to give them a little bit of a run for their money because I kind of like the way the Volunteers are playing. Don't get me wrong, not a big run for their money, but I think they're going to be at least a little bit more competitive than these other teams. But I see Georgia sweeping the rest of this series, like this season, excuse me. And, are we going to get Georgia, Bama in the college championships then?
It depends because they will most likely meet in the SEC championship.
I didn't think about that.
But if Georgia beats Bama in the SEC championship, I don't think a 2-loss Bama team gets into the college football playoff. If it's the other way around, Bama will probably get the 1 seed and Georgia will get like the 3 or the 4. And then, we could see these two teams play twice, SEC championship and then the national championship. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. But I don't know that Bama gets in with. You're going to have one spot pretty much reserved for a Big Ten team with, between Ohio State, Michigan State, Iowa, potentially Minnesota, little really, really big sleeper there. Like sleeper isn't a huge long shot, but Minnesota does still control their own destiny in the Big Ten West. Somehow, some way. But, so one of those will be a Big Ten team for sure. Unless Oklahoma loses, you got Oklahoma in there. Oregon, if they win the rest of their games, it's going to be tough, but they might have a case. And then Cincinnati, so long as they don't lose. Cincinnati, actually, I like Cincinnati, especially, in the rankings, not dropping despite having, a one score win against Navy, not blowing them out.
Yeah.
I think people realize how good the Cincinnati team is. So I don't know that there's room for a 2-loss Bama team. I do, obviously, Georgia and Bama both could easily make it.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you. I don't think there's a shot for it. There shouldn't be a shot for a 2-loss Bama team to make it into the college playoffs and everything. But I think you and I both understand that this college playoff committee is filled with interesting people, to put it very politely. And I think that if they can squeeze Bama in there for for all the money and everything, I think they will be. Can you imagine the Nick Saban Aflac commercial that would come out this year if he made it to the national championships? Holy shit. It would be a big commercial for Aflac.
Well, yeah. And what will happen with Bama is if they do, if it's Bama, Georgia in the SEC championship, like it probably will be. If Bama beats Georgia there, Georgia's in because they're a 1-loss team. Their 1 loss is to Bama. Bama and Georgia are going to push out either Cincinnati or Oklahoma. One of those teams isn't going to make the cut if you have a 1-loss Bama and a 1-loss Georgia. Yeah. Even an undefeated Oklahoma or an undefeated Cincinnati, one of the two will get pushed out. And I hope there's enough pressure that Cincinnati would make it instead of Oklahoma. I do think Cincinnati's a better team than Oklahoma.
Way better team than Oklahoma. Even though this Caleb kid is doing a hell of a lot better than Rattler.
Yeah, he's made that team look like a playoff team.
Yeah. All right. So last thing on college football, and then I want to go to the NFL because I got a lot to talk about going on in the NFL. I just want yes or no from you on this one, and then we'll get more in detail next week. Spencer Rattler, does he go into the transfer portal or does he stay? I mean, I'm sorry. Does Spencer Rattler go into the transfer portal at the end of this year? Yes or no?
Yeah, at the end of this season. He won't go before the end of the season, but
I agree. He is in that transfer portal trying to find somewhere to go.
His draft stock is dead for this year at least.
Get him out.
I mean, he can earn that back. He'll go to another high
absolutely
program. Like he'll end up at one of those like mid-tier SEC schools.
Mid-tier SEC, or honestly go to USC and dominate the Pac-12 with Pete Carroll for a year.
Well, Pete Carroll's not leaving.
I don't know, man. After this year, what the Seahawks are doing, Mike Tomlin's definitely not going.
That was so funny. If you guys haven't seen that interview, somehow some rumor popped up that Mike Tomlin was interviewing for the USC job. He gets asked about it, and he said never say never, but never. And then he said there is no booster with a big enough blank check to get him to go leave his job with the Steelers to go to the USC.
And he said, I'm going to answer all questions now, next week, and forever about this. No, not going to happen. Never want to talk about it again. Honestly, the best interview in the NFL since Aaron Rodgers had his 35-minute therapy session in the preseason before about the Packers front office. But yeah, let's get into the NFL, bro, because this was a crazy week. A lot of big favorites, a lot of huge spreads, as we talked about on Degenerate Bets. But, bro, a lot of these spreads covered. And that's what I find absolutely crazy. If bettors and normal bettors would have stayed with the trend of picking a lot of these favorites and picking the spread and everything like that, the books would have probably had another one of their worst weeks in, sports betting history or something like that a couple weeks ago.
I think it's the same in every sport. It's my philosophy. I've told you with college basketball, AJ, is bet the big spreads because usually those big spreads should be larger than they are. They get scared of the big spreads.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times those large spreads are actually a couple points less than what they should be realistically. Yeah. And I mean, this week proved it. I mean, more of them hit than didn't on the favorites.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's take the best team in the NFL right now. The Arizona Cardinals, for example, beating the Texans 31-5. Crazy game, but Cardinals really just stepped it up after coming out to a slow start. This spread, I got it at 17.5. It closed
it was
at
20 at game time.
20.5 at some books, 20 and a half at some shops. But it covered no problem whatsoever. Here we are. Let's collect that money at -110 and call it good. Cardinals looked unbelievable, especially, and we'll get to it on Degenerate Bets and everything. Well, I guess we can talk about
Houston's the worst team in the league right now.
Yeah.
Even though they do have one win, like I mentioned before, the Lions have been getting real close. Houston's just, since Tyrod Taylor went out there, I mean, Davis Mills is not the guy. He's bad. They're just getting demoralized.
Oh yeah.
And they've been trading people, releasing people. Like, they're getting rid of all the decent players they have left. They just don't care. They're just in full tank mode. They're going to go 1-16. Maybe not. Maybe they beat Jacksonville for a second time, but I don't even think they want to. Like, I think Jacksonville will be motivated to win that game and Houston won't.
And I get that.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Tyrod Taylor comes back and it sparks their offense and everything again, and they start competing.
See,
they've looked bad.
See, at this
they've
point,
just looked really bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this point, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to not see Tyrod Taylor the rest of the season, whether he's healthy or not, because I think Tyrod Taylor gives them a chance to win. And I think they want to get a good draft pick, and they don't want a chance to win.
Well, because God,
we've gone over
this. They do have their first round pick.
We've talked about this, yes. And apparently you and I've watched so many of these sports talk shows and everything because I have nothing else better to do with my day. You and I are apparently the only geniuses on earth who took a look at what the draft capital actually is for the Texans and what they actually have, because all these idiots keep talking about is, oh, holy shit, the fucking Texans, they got no one to draft for the next fucking 10 years. Well, dude, it takes is a quick Google search, and you obviously see.
They've given away a lot of picks, but they have their first kept like most of their first round picks.
A lot of their second and thirds we saw. It was a lot of the fourth and fifth and sixth rounds that we saw that were going. Some later 2s and 3s, but that's like a couple years down the road.
There were a lot of 3s involved in there, maybe a couple 2s, but they have pretty much all their first round picks. So at least there's that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Unless you're like an amazing drafter like Belichick and you can get a Brady in the 9th or something like that, that's different. But the Texans are not going to draft it.
And I think maybe what you do if you're them, because a number 1 is worth a lot more than a mid or late first round pick. They might be able to leverage that number 1 overall pick if they get it into like 3 other first round picks, trade back to 8 or 9 or 10, and then get like another first round pick or 2 for that number 1 overall. That's totally something that could happen. And then, that's kind of what you need to do when you're like they've stripped down their team to the bare bones.
All they have really is Deshaun Watson, and he is not even playing for the team.
Yeah, and that's if they can even deal him for anything.
Bro,
if the Dolphins
he's worthless.
If the Dolphins are stupid enough to give up draft picks for him,
dude, they might though, because the way Tua is playing, Tua is not developing the way the Dolphins want him to develop, and I don't know if it's the Dolphins, because I don't really think the Dolphins have any weapons, and I really am not trusting this offensive line that I've been told is so good.
They have good receiving weapons. They got serviceable running backs. Mike Gesicki's not a bad tight end. Offensive line's not like god awful. I think he doesn't have any good like coaching around him.
Yeah.
But I also I never had faith in Tua anyways, so.
I know you didn't. I know you were never really a big Tua fan. But there's also a report out right now that's saying a lot of the Dolphins players are out on Brian Flores and kind of annoyed with him over a lot of this Deshaun Watson talk, just because they're uncertain in who their quarterback is. And I say at this point, it's a little too late.
Flores shut it down. But
did he?
Yeah, but it's, obviously it's the GM's decision at the end of the day. Whether or not he listens to what the coach wants. But Flores, when those rumors started swirling, Flores came out and he said, no, Tua's our quarterback. Like, that's what we're doing. But I don't know what it's like inside of the locker room. That's, yet to be seen. But, we were talking about those big point favorites hitting this week.
Yes, sir.
Of the favorites that were 7 points or larger, Green Bay covered.
Oh, yeah, easy.
New England covered.
Yes, they did.
The Rams did not, but then Arizona and Tampa Bay, the other 2 teams with a 7+ point spread, all covered. So 4 out of 5. That's
not
pretty
bad.
Big for over a touchdown spread.
Absolutely, and especially in that Buccaneers game. That line ended up closing at 10, 11 points?
I think it stayed around 12 and a half.
Did it stay around 12 and a half? I didn't see a final line.
I don't think it fell too much. It might have fallen like a point to 11 and a half, but
still 12 points. I mean, that's easily a 2 touchdown game right there. 2 possession game at the most. And I think this just speaks.
Justin Fields with 6 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles.
Oh my God, dude. What? I think his facial expression said it all. I mean, he was sitting there on the bench. What was that? Mid-4th or mid-3rd or something like that. Just completely defeated. And I think that's every Bears fan right now. And I think that Matt Nagy got the perfect time to get COVID. That's all I'm saying. Because I think this motherfucker is about to get fired. I really do. Because, bro, we gave him all the draft time. We gave him all the chances and everything. He's got this prodigy. He's supposed to be some offensive guru, but he can't call a fucking play to save his life. And here he is. He turned over the play calling to Bill Lazor. Yeah, great. That guy should be fired too. So we need to literally do a top to bottom sweep from GM all through this coaching staff. Shit, honest to God, give me MCDC from fucking Detroit. Get Dan Campbell in there. I much prefer him over I'd literally prefer a fucking broomstick at this point over Matt Nagy. They might at least be able to call a fucking play. This is getting ridiculous, dude. And honest to God, if the Bears stick with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace for another year, it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard to be a fan of them next year because I'm just going to watch them throw this team down the toilet, flush it around, and then we'll take another shit on it because it didn't go all the way, and then we'll get the plunger out, bro. Seriously, they're worse. Like, the only thing that's positive about them is this COVID test. It's so disappointing at this point. But that's all I really have to say on the Bears. Thank you for coming to my Bears bitchy minute. No, are there anything else? Oh, okay. We got to talk about this, bro. The Bengals routing the Baltimore Ravens 41-17. Are the Bengals real, bro?
Yes, but not to the extent that a lot of people are jumping on them. Would be my take.
Okay.
I've seen a couple things say, like, grouping the Bengals into the 6 or 7 teams as Super Bowl contenders.
Ooh.
That's too much. The Bengals are not. They're not Super Bowl contenders.
No.
Baltimore just has a defense that occasionally does not like to show up.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's for a quarter, sometimes it's for a half. In this one, it was the entire fucking game. They didn't show up. But I mean, last week against the Colts, is that last week or 2 weeks ago against the Colts? They didn't show up the first half. They were down big, and Lamar led a heroic comeback.
Amazing.
Last week they played the Chargers, and they showed up for the entire game. But they've had stretches where, like, this has been the Ravens defense the entire season. Is they have for stretches like not shown up, and sometimes they play great and sometimes they play awful. They're just very inconsistent. They're ranked 24th in the NFL in total defense right now. They were, I think, preseason projections were supposed to be the best defense in the NFL. Clearly, I mean, they had some big injuries.
True.
Losing your number one cornerback doesn't help. A couple other injuries they've had there. I mean, the Ravens have just been hit by the injury bug hard since preseason, before the season even began. The Ravens are still a good competitive team who can show up every week. Yeah, it's just, I think the Bengals came with a really good defensive game plan, and the Ravens defense just didn't show up. I do think the Ravens are still a better team than the Bengals. It's just this game and the score doesn't reflect that. But I do think the Bengals are legit. I think they'll make the playoffs based on the way they're playing. I don't think they're going to win the division. I do think the Ravens will win that division. But the Bengals will be fighting it out with, the Browns and possibly even the Steelers if they can start clicking.
Yeah.
The Steelers are my least favorite out of the 3 right now, but I'm also not going to go as far as counting out the Steelers for taking a wild card spot, because, I mean, that Steelers defense is, when they can get back fully healthy, they are legit. They are good. Their offense clearly fucking sucks, but if they figure out their offense partway through the season at some point, the Steelers could be a dangerous team. And, that's not unheard of for a team to find their identity halfway through the season.
True.
So,
well,
that division will be interesting, though, and it will come down to the wire, probably to the last game or 2 of the season. I can tell you that for sure.
It most definitely will come down to the wire. I want to talk about another team, though, that we kind of find interesting, kind of stepping into their own, as you were talking about. Tennessee Titans just blowing out the Chiefs 27-3. The Chiefs just didn't have a chance. They didn't have a chance. Once Derrick Henry started get going, Ryan Tannehill started just having a fucking field day with that defense, throwing the ball to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. deeper and farther on every other pass, bro. It was unbelievable. The Chiefs were trying to stop Derrick Henry, but just left the passing game open. That led to Patrick Mahomes just trying to do way too much. And that's what led to all the mistakes and the turnovers and everything. If this Chiefs defense cannot get it together, Patrick Mahomes will not play good football. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't play good football, this Chiefs team does not win games. Fade the Chiefs, especially like I love betting against the Chiefs live. If they have a bad first quarter, they're going to have a bad game. So I'm kind of fading the Chiefs from here on out, definitely against the spread since they can't cover to save their fucking life anyway. But this Titans team, I'm liking this Titans team with a healthy team.
Yeah, I love the Titans. I don't know what happened in that Jets game. I'm going to chalk that up to a fluky game, just like the Packers getting blown out 38-3 against the Saints in week 1. It was just a fluky off game that the Titans ended up losing to the Jets in overtime. I think if they play them 9 more times, the Titans, I'd be happy to take the Titans in all 9 of those. But the Titans are good. They're good. I mean, I picked them to win that division very confidently. I expected the Colts to be a little bit better, but they seem like they're kind of hitting their stride a little bit. I do still think the Titans are the best team in this division. I don't even think it's close. I think the Titans outmatched the Colts pretty good.
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry, even though he didn't show up big on the stat sheet in this game, holy shit, it's the Derrick Henry effect. The Chiefs were stacking 7 or 8 in the box every single play, which allowed Tannehill to have single coverage with every single receiver. You put AJ Brown and Julio Jones in single coverage.
Okay.
With and then safety or somebody else is in single coverage because they got 8 guys in the box half the time trying to stop Derrick Henry. It's like game over. You're putting 2 great receivers in one-on-one coverage. Because God, the Chiefs are biting so hard on every single play action.
Every single one.
Beautiful offensive play calling. Chiefs couldn't get anything going. But my hot take on the Chiefs, though, is the defense isn't their biggest problem right now. It's their offense. It's their offense. Because they have not had great defenses the last 2 years. I mean, this defense is worse. That's for sure. But they haven't had great defenses the last 2 years. This whole offseason, they were talking about how they're fixing all their offensive line issues. That clearly didn't happen.
No.
Mahomes is trying to play hero ball. He had another 3 turnovers against the Titans. He's now got more turnovers through 7 games this season than he's had the last 2 seasons combined.
That's crazy. That's unbelievable.
Mahomes, I think a lot of his safety blankets are kind of gone, and he's still trying to play hero ball, and he's getting smacked in the face and realizing that they will be a much better rounded team and be producing better when Mahomes starts throwing those dump off passes, going to his check downs, when he stops trying to do crazy things, throwing the ball out of bounds, rather than trying to force things. Mahomes is just trying to do too much right now.
Yeah.
And if they can just get an efficient offense going to keep themselves in games, so long if they're within a score, like if they're only down 1 score instead of, down over 20 points at halftime, then he doesn't need to play all this hero ball, and you can really get your stuff going because Tyreek Hill's amazing. Travis Kelce's amazing. They don't really have much of a running game, but it would be really nice for them if they had like a third option that was actually efficient, but they don't really need it. I mean, you got Kelce and Hill, which are probably the best 1-2 punch in the league.
Oh yeah, easily.
It's just, you can't be playing from 20 points behind.
No, you can't at all. You really can't at all.
Or you can't be getting 10 points behind in the first quarter every game. And not all of that's on their defense, because it's on their offense too. Because if they can, instead of trying to just like score, if you score on a 7 or 8 minute drive, that completely changes things. You wear down the defense, and then you open up so many more opportunities. So I do think their offense is going to have to figure it out by the way, going to interject real quick. Braves just won 6-2, taking game 1.
Fuck yeah.
We love that. I saw
Love that.
96% of the country cheering for the Braves in this World Series because nobody fucking likes cheaters.
Fuck the Astros. Fuck them. Never should win another title again. They should have been banned from even making the playoffs. All those players should have been banned from baseball like poor Pete Rose was. Fuck all of them. They should never win another title. I hope they're cursed longer than the Cubs are.
So just had to interject with that because saw that.
Which, by the way, if anyone's curious on my World Series pick, I'm obviously got a couple tickets on the Braves to win the whole thing, but that's another talk for Degenerate.
I'm a Braves in 6, maybe Braves in 7 type of guy.
I like Braves in 7 a lot. I think it's going to be a good series. I think it's going to be back and forth, though. I think the Braves long term have a better pitching staff. Obviously Morton getting hurt in the second inning was a big shot to the gut, but what was that? It was a fractured tibia or fibia?
I don't know. They said it was serious.
Yeah, it was effed up. He ain't playing anymore this season, but he is looking.
Well, they have Max Fried still, so
yeah, love Fried. That guy's.
But the Astros are out one of what's his face? One of their main pitchers.
Oh, that's right.
We got injured in the ALDS.
Yeah. Who is that guy?
I don't know why I can't think of the name. But
anyway,
should we get back to the NFL?
Yeah, you got anything else to cover on that? I mean, besides the Lions getting ahead early and kind of throwing it away, we already covered that. Patriots routing the Jets, nothing surprising there, except our boy Zach Wilson being injured. Poor guy.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. But
and also poor Joe Flacco for having to go back to the Jets. That sucks.
Yeah, getting traded back. Man, the Lions are due for a win. I mean, they gave it everything they had. I mean, obviously the surprise onside kick, 2 fake punts that both converted, and they still came up short. I mean, that's tough. But this team's hungry. This team's ready for a win. I think they're playing Philadelphia this week, so this could very, very well be the week. I actually wouldn't even be too surprised if the Lions come out and beat Philly by double digits.
Well, wow. That's a take right there.
Well, this is their first game against a, not great team, I think.
True.
I mean, who have they played so far? I mean, they've had a pretty tough schedule this year.
Yeah, they've been San Francisco, Green Bay, Baltimore, Chicago, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Rams, Philadelphia, bye, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, Arizona, Atlanta, Seattle, Green Bay. That is a rough fucking schedule right there for this.
And they got Philly at home. I mean, they almost led this incredible comeback week 1 against the Niners, who aren't super great, but they're as far as 2-win teams, the Niners are pretty good.
I will say my favorite post on Twitter I saw this NFL Sunday was someone saying how excited they were to see Jimmy G be the face of the XFL next year.
But then, I mean, and then they have that devastating loss to the Ravens week 2. Lose to the Bears, which that one was that one didn't look great. They weren't super competitive in that. The Packers game, obviously that was week 2. They got blown out by the Packers. Come back really close against the Ravens, not super close against the Bears, really close against the Vikings, get blown out by the Bengals. So they're on an every other week schedule right now, which if they continue that, not so great for this week. But Philly is a 3.5 point favorite. I like the Lions money line. I think they're due.
They are due.
But Pittsburgh the week after, that could be an opportunity. I don't think they'll beat the Browns. They'll probably beat the Bears because, like I said, the Lions always find a way to beat the Bears once. It's never twice. It's just they always steal one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they're due. I don't think Seattle is doing too bad actually with Geno Smith.
No, not at all.
I mean, obviously they've lost 2 games, but they've been competitive. Like they're lucky for them. I think they got the Jaguars this week. So,
yeah, they do. They got Jacksonville this week and then a bye.
If you're Seattle, it's a good time to beat Jacksonville. It's obviously not super great going in 3-5 to your bye week, but going to that bye week, they're planning on getting Russell Wilson back for the week after against the Packers. I wouldn't give up hope yet on Seattle.
No.
If you're a Seattle fan, you still could pull it together and make the playoffs. Obviously, it doesn't look super tremendous, but
let's just say I feel better being a Seattle fan than I do being a 49ers fan.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, the 49ers look like they've got a lot of issues.
And let's talk about the 49ers for a hot second, because I don't think a lot of
that game was fun to watch. As sloppy as it's, oh my God, there had to have been like 8 or 9 fumbles in that game.
It was fucking terrible, dude.
It was like what, 40 mile an hour winds and
oh man, and raining.
Heavy rain,
like fucking 20 inches of rain. It was insane.
We had an atmospheric river going over San Francisco. That is the actual weather term.
And then let's talk
covered
about
it multiple times.
They did. They could not have said that shit enough. They also couldn't have said enough how, it's fine, the field has drainage in it, so it won't get fucking slick or whatever. That's great for the fucking field, but let's talk about these athletes and the fucking ball. Like, I don't give a shit about the field. Let's talk about the fact that the quarterbacks aren't going to be able to throw the ball for 3 of the fucking 4 quarters until they figure it out.
Well, also, I do have to say, I don't get why some players still wear gloves when it is that rainy.
It doesn't matter.
When the rain's coming that hard.
Doesn't matter.
Take the gloves off.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played football. Yes. I mean,
yeah, I played football.
Those gloves are
a little bit, not a lot.
Except for when they get soaked.
Yeah.
When they get soaked, they're more slippery than your bare hands. And I mean, they were talking about it in the Seattle New Orleans games a lot of last night, because they were getting some residual, not nearly as bad, but a lot of those players were not wearing gloves.
Yeah.
You don't wear gloves in the heavy rain. I mean, if it's lightly raining, you're fine. But holy shit, I mean, those things get soaking wet. I mean, they become more slippery than your hands. I don't get it, but clearly nobody could hold on to the fucking ball.
Literally no one. It was just a matter of who was going to fumble it last, really, until the Colts pulled away.
I mean, God, there had to have been close to a dozen fumbles in that game. Not all of them lost, but the amount of dropped interceptions too. That was crazy on both sides. I mean,
so so the only stat I have right now is fumbles lost, and there was 2 on each team. 2, and the 49ers had 2 interceptions. I'm trying to see if there's total. But
the amount of dropped interceptions was crazy in that game too. Like,
oh my God, Carson Wentz should have been credited with at least 5 more interceptions if it wasn't for just the 49ers not being able to catch the fucking ball. Like, It was rough to watch that game, but it was a train wreck. You just couldn't look away. You had to watch the whole thing to the end to really see.
Well, it was exciting. It was exciting.
It was.
Like, despite being crappy weather in a messy game, because when you get a messy game like that, it goes one of 2 ways. It's either really exciting and it's a dogfight, or it's just really crappy football and hard to watch.
Yeah.
This was a very exciting game.
Very good. I mean, I loved it.
Last night's game, Seattle and New Orleans wasn't super exciting, and I mean the weather wasn't even half as bad, but I was at least glad that that San Francisco Indianapolis game, it was exciting. There was you're on the edge of your seat because a lot of turnovers, a lot of good field position that didn't always amount to a whole lot.
It was a fun game. It was definitely the game that I did not think I would enjoy to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, despite being sloppy, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot. It it was like, that is the football that you would play with your buddies on a rainy Saturday and just go out to the fields and just throw the ball around and shit. Like, it was just good old fashioned fun football. I'm a big fan of that. Although I do want to say one thing about the no fun league. Okay. These taunting calls have to fucking stop. All right. I am sick and tired of them already. It hasn't even been a full season yet. And bro, let me tell you, the fact that it's a 15-yard penalty, like, fine, if you want to call it, make it a 5-yard penalty. Don't make it a first down plus 5 yards. That's fucking ridiculous.
Well, it just let the players celebrate.
Yeah. These guys are playing a game. This is a game.
They're grown-ass men. They have, well, I hope they have thick skin if they're grown-ass men.
Seriously.
If you can't take somebody pointing at you and saying an insult, then there's problems.
No, honestly.
And I get if it goes over the top, and if you say something bad in the earshot of a ref, you get unsportsmanlike. It's always been like that.
Unsportsmanlike, then that's fine. Give it unsportsmanlike conduct. Don't give me a fucking taunting call.
Yeah, but my point is, like, that also has to, like, cater to, like, the content of what you're saying. Just pointing at somebody or waving at somebody.
Yeah,
or like Tyreek Hill's thing where he, like, puts up the peace sign as he's running past somebody into the end zone. I mean, that shouldn't be a pet. Like, I'm just saying, like, let people celebrate.
Absolutely. Let people celebrate. This isn't soccer. This isn't the NBA where we have a bunch of soft people playing our sport. These are grown ass tough men playing a game where they run their heads into other people's heads. Okay. They're not soft. They can take a fucking point or someone waving at them while they run into the end zone. So let's stop coddling these people like they're fucking fifth graders who get their feelings hurt easy. Okay. Let's treat these men like men and let's have some fun playing football and not worry about this prima donna shit going on in other sports. Like the NBA, for example. James Harden, don't get me wrong, we're only like 3 or 4 games in. He's having his worst season yet because he's not getting to the line, because he's not getting those shooting fouls that he would normally get, because they cut back on calling shooting fouls like when it's like a weird position or some shit like that. I don't know.
Pussy fouls.
Yeah, but it's made it for great basketball because these refs are looking at these players laying on the ground like, get your ass up and go make that play. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, because they made adjustments in the NBA for this season for the fouls for, like, jumping into people.
Yes.
Like, you can't, like, just jump into somebody intentionally anymore.
Which they needed to do because that was becoming a plague.
Yeah, because you get somebody in the air and you're not even trying to make the ball. You're just jumping into them so you can get 3 free throws.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I mean, AJ, I've got, I think, 2 more NFL games that
all right, let's talk about them. Let's hit them real quick.
Carolina Panthers at the New York Giants. Sam Darnold getting benched, yet
still their starter.
Yeah, Matt Rule says he's still their starter.
I mean, I guess like Tua, this happened to Tua last year. Tua was the starter, but then he would get benched for Fitzmagic in fourth quarter and stuff like that. So it's not, I would say it's not uncommon in the NFL right now, but who the hell went in for him? Who's their backup? I forgot the name.
PJ Washington,
he's from the XFL, right?
He was the stud of the XFL.
Yeah,
he
that's
was
right.
Like, the 5-0 before the season got canceled. Houston Roughnecks, I think it was.
That's right. Yeah, the Houston
and
Roughnecks. He was a stud.
He was playing really good. I mean, he was backing up Teddy Bridgewater last year. I mean, PJ Washington can play.
He can absolutely play. Like, shout out to him for getting playing time and everything. But if you're Sam Darnold, you're not feeling good.
I was happy to see this because, I am so on the Sam Darnold as a bust train.
Oh, I'm very aware.
And oh my God, one more game getting benched, and he's like not getting benched for like a partial game. He's benched. And what did I say? After they started 3-0? I said they're crap. I said they're still a crap team. Although I did think they were going to start 6-2 after that 3-0 start.
True. I did think they were going to start a little hotter than they are.
And then I said they were going to lose 8 of their next 9 games after starting 6-2. They're not even going to start 6-2 anymore. They're probably still going to lose 8 of their last 9 games. This Carolina team's like looking like a 5-6 win team.
Yeah.
despite starting 3-0. Crazy to think their over-under got up to what, like 8.5, 9.5 at some point.
8.5 at one point. Yeah, that shit was insane.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, bad.
Well, so
Carolina looks bad.
They do, but hey, shout out to Danny Dimes looking like OBJ out there with the one-handed catch. Shout out.
Daniel Beckham Jr.
Honestly, so Danny Dimes might just be playing the wrong position, you know?
I mean, last year he clocked the fastest time out of any ball runner.
I mean, minus the trip, yeah.
Well, it was before the trip that he clocked, but he clocked the fastest time out of anybody running with the ball last season. This season, he's out there making a one-handed catch.
He's an athlete, bro. He's an athlete.
Dude's a very solid athlete. I'm not going to disagree with that. He's just not a great quarterback.
Not the best quarterback out there. But hey, we still got a long season ahead of us. He's still got some time to develop. Noah, last thoughts on the NFL season? Any other games you want to? I'm sorry, on the NFL week. Any other games you wanted to cover?
Yes, we need to talk about a team that you laughed at me when I said they were going to make the playoffs.
I'm still probably going to laugh at you.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
Ha!
5-2, top of the division. This team's legit. And guess what? Now that Gruden's gone, Derek Carr is being forced to be a leader. And Gruden's a huge personality. Carr was never like the ultimate leader of that team. Now Derek Carr is the leader of that team. And it is looking beautiful. It is looking beautiful.
I don't know.
I think this might be John Gruden stepping down might be what elevates Derek Carr to an elite quarterback status. I'm not fully saying he's elite yet, but Derek Carr might be on track to be an elite quarterback in the NFL.
Hey, I'll give you that.
The dude's good and he can run an offense. I mean,
I'll give you that.
I don't love the Raiders defense. It's much better than it was last year, but that offense is dangerous. I think it can hang in there with pretty much anybody.
No, yeah, and I want to agree with you completely. I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback, and I agree. I think John Gruden being out of that building is definitely going to help him step in as a leader. And I will say, I do like these last 2 weeks, what he has done with this team and this offense. With that being said, though, there's a liability. That defense is a liability, and I don't know if this offense can score enough points to cover the defense.
I don't know that it's as much of a liability as it was. I mean, obviously not as much as last year, but I don't know.
Not as much as last year. I don't think it's.
I don't know that it's that much of a lie. I mean, as far as that division goes, I mean, the Chargers defense isn't anything to brag about. The Chiefs is obviously one of the worst in the league. Denver is not what it's supposed to be. Denver, obviously the one of those four teams that doesn't have an high-powered offense either.
Yeah, and looking at their schedule, I mean, they have a pretty easy schedule. This may be a playoff team. You might be right. And I need to eat crow on this.
And I'm still holding on, just not as confidently about this division producing 3 playoff teams, because I have doubts about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the team. The Chiefs are the team that is giving me doubts about my take from a couple weeks ago about this division producing 3 playoff teams.
Yeah.
But I like the Chargers. I like the Raiders. If the Chiefs can just figure their shit out, this could still be a 3 playoff team division.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the season. We will be back later this week with another Degenerate Takes, a special edition Degenerate Takes, covering the upcoming college basketball season. That'll be exciting. Noah, I know you and I are both extremely stoked for this basketball season. It's going to be lit. It's going to be electric, bro. I'm so excited for it. We'll also be back later this week with the Degenerate Bets for both college football and NFL. We may even throw a little bit of MLB, NBA in there if we're feeling some spice going into it. Please do, though, follow us on all social media. Myself at Brofic1, Noah at _Engelbretson. us on TikTok at Degenerate Take 69 and Spotify, YouTube, however you're listening, however you're watching. We do really appreciate. Please like, share, and subscribe, as it does help us fight those bastard algorithms, bro. I still can't figure them out. I can't. I've tried everything, but you know what, Noah? We're still going to keep fighting the good fight against these algorithms, and damn it, we will figure it out.
We'll get our traction eventually.
Eventually, bro. We're on our way. With that being said, I've been the Brofict one. That's been Noah, and we'll see you next time on Degenerate Takes.